So, welcome back to another stream, and today we're gonna talk about NoFap and masturbation quite in general and my experiences with it as a whole thing. But let's see you after the intro. Oh, I fucked it up. There we go. The infamous intro that, by the way, I've seen that there is indeed sound originally, but I think through editing it kind of gets lost since it is more or less noise, and I try to, as much as I possibly can, make the audio as less noisy as I can. So yeah, it's been 3 weeks now, and of course, people that are really into the space, people that are really, knowledgeable in the whole NoFap industry, theme, whatever you wanna actually call it, say, okay, certain benefits you only get after a certain period of time, and yada yada yada. And well, it would certainly also make sense to some degree, but still, I do want to talk about the things that I have noticed, negative and positive, and I'm just going to go through all of them without too much of a scheme, too much of a real concept behind that. And well, yeah, something that I do just see right now is the ability to speak clearly and maybe also think clearly is definitely to some degree impaired when not being on NoFap. So being on NoFap kind of made my thinking clearer, and therefore also my articulation and the way I'm able to speak, the way I'm able to form sentences, especially as well because English isn't my first language, it isn't my mother tongue, so it might also be a bit more elevated in that sense, or a bit more noticeable in that sense. I at least think, I guess, as I'm speaking now, which is another point for me, mental clarity in general. I have noticed a bit of fog occurring again. This fog in and of itself is not necessarily something bad, because I'm still able to do all the things I want to do. I still am productive, well, as productive as I've also kind of been before, and so roughly the same. And well, also quite motivation is the same, which is all the whole mental thing, I'd say. But I clearly do notice the whole mental clarity scheme, thing, scenario, whatever. At least at this point in time, I really, really, really do notice it. Which may also be placebo, but even if it is placebo, and I've been, talking about it before, it is still fine. It is still valuable then if you get this experience and if you make this experience, because I don't know, if it helps, it helps, even if it is placebo, as it is with medication. I mean, if placebo medication can help with cancer, I'm still gonna fucking take it, because I don't really care if it is placebo or if it isn't. But yeah. Then, of course, I do have felt and just immensely increased desire to meet with, especially females, but to in general be social, but really big, but I have noticed that this desire was only when it came to certain situations, when it came to certain scenarios where I knew that I'm gonna be able to meet potential mates. Quite. And well, then it was, I wouldn't then say that it is about socializing in general, even if I also had a slight feeling and also a slight tendency to be more likely to do that. But as I said, it might just have been overshadowed by the fact that there quite always in all the situations, in all the in the social interactions that I was able to have, that there was potentially some potential mates, if you know what I mean, or understand what I'm referring to now. And so this might just, as I said before, be an overshadowing of the whole thing. And it is fairly difficult to now say, okay, it was exactly because of that. This whole desire to meet the other gender, which I think though is just heavily dependent on your sexual orientation. I would assume that if one was gay, that there would also be just a particular desire to just meet the same gender then, I think it is just in general sexual interactions at these times, and I've especially noticed that, I guess, after 2 weeks, and in the third week it was really quite intense, which also then led me to just quote unquote disrupt my whole progress and stop the whole NoFap experience, NoFap, let's call it experience, because it really is an experience. So these were all really good things, and some other things that I've noticed is dopamine seeking, and the seeking of pleasure that I then most often got from food, and which also led to me not getting to my 16 hours fast relatively often. Sometimes I've been able to, have 20 hours of just, not eating anything because I was working or whatnot. But at these points of time, most people being at home, and I certainly being at home most of the time, I had access to food, and of course, I had things to do. There were things going on, and so on and so forth. But still, I felt like the need to eat something and also to do something. By the way, also drinking coffee, because I felt like there is some dopamine seeking behavior, and this was my way then to deal with it and to get this dopamine that I was left out because of NoFap, which was actually really interesting to see. And in terms of confidence, I did have a certain feeling of powerfulness, that I am just the king and whatnot, but this kind of diminished, I would say, after the second week quite a bit. I didn't feel that confident, but after relapsing, after kind of breaking the whole thing, I looked at myself and I thought, well, you don't look that good today. Because of whatever reason. I think it was because of the hair. I don't fucking know anymore. And then I thought, wow, I have not had these thoughts in the past 3 weeks. And it was really interesting, even though I said it to myself and I thought it before, but I didn't really believe it quite. But this just really occurred after relapsing, after kind of breaking the whole thing. And I don't know if this is really, really the case, especially, after relapsing. And this, as far as I know, at least is also scientifically proven that you're gonna be in a very certain state, which also makes sense, from, a mating perspective and, yada, yada, yada. So this might just be something completely different, on some later days. But still, I do really felt confident and also relatively quote-unquote powerful. To some degree, also better concentration, even though there was also a negative part about that, but I'm gonna get into the negatives afterwards. And concentration in terms of not necessarily having this feeling of really really being in a flow state, really being into what I'm doing at this point in time, but just, doing my shit. Even if I do not want to do it, I just did my stuff. But I do also have to point out that concentration, productivity, and motivation has actually never quite been an issue for me. And therefore, for me to say, okay, this completely due to NoFap that I've had a bit of better concentration is, I don't really know, but I think it plays more or less into the whole mental clarity thing again, which I, by the way, notice right now quite clearly, that I am not as clear as I was, which I am at this point in time kind of as well, how do you call it, misinterpreting as a little bit of a headache. I feel like there's a bit less oxygen in my head, Also when I'm speaking, which is actually fairly interesting because I have not felt it in the past 3 weeks. Quite, at least not really, and at least not to this degree. I have when I when I was recording. I think it was actually quite late, and I also didn't really feel like recording during the whole process, but still I kind of felt it. Let's get to the negative points, because there were negative points, and this was also quite for me the reason to stop all the thing and the whole process and whatnot. But the combination of good things and bad things lead me to a better principle and a better way of dealing with these things, I would say. And as I'm talking about things, and as I'm relapsing things, and as I'm just thinking through all the positives and all the negatives, it kind of really paints a clear picture, at least for me and my experience. I still think and do want to point out and underline that there is a chance that my experience is going to be completely different from everyone else's experience, also due to the whole placebo thing, and also due to just us human beings being completely different from one and another. So for example, as I said, productivity, motivation, and the whole just getting things done thing, I have always been quite productive. I've always quite had the ability to motivate myself to do the things that I didn't really want to do, especially also in times where I just really did not feel like doing those. Late at night, when there was some emergencies and some other shit going on, and so forth. And but still, in terms of productivity and motivation, there might be some slight changes. Some slight tendencies to do that a bit more. I feel like right now, because I also feel relatively sleepy right now, a bit tired right now, and this. Also after intercourse and whatnot, we all notice that. As a man, you have clearly noticed that for sure, and which is really interesting. But as I said, I think that it is indeed scientifically proven that this is just the case, and thinking about it or thinking through it kind of just explains it, I guess, and just makes sense of it as well. So these were the positive sides, the negative ones, and they were also quite prominent for me, at least. Even though as I'm just going through it, there was actually only one negative side of all of it, which kind of shifts everything a tiny bit for me once again. Neediness, extreme neediness, and the desire to meet up with women. Just being on certain platforms way more than I was before, and having this deep feeling of having to meet somebody just because of one reason, just because of basically sexuality and intercourse and whatnot, which really pissed me off in the end, because I didn't really know if how things would change and would be, and I would have had to try that out. If I, had intercourse and whatnot. I don't know. I really don't. If things would have been different, if I would really have then given a shit about this person, and I really didn't want to have that. Especially also because this neediness, I really dislike it. And I also know that women dislike it. And I myself as a man would quite also dislike it. I would say, if somebody is really needy, maybe also putting pressure onto you, then it really is not a good situation for you and the other person, but also for you and for me not, because I felt that I may not see the person as the person is, and I may get myself in a position and into a situation that I don't really want to be in. Misjudging the whole situation and misjudging the whole thing to a really high and big degree. And I really didn't want to have that. And also impaired productivity because of this neediness, always thinking about this one thing, always thinking about, also when you are on a diet, thinking about food. for example. And this for me, and as I'm also talking about it, makes it clear that it is not the right approach. Even if there are just multiple and really great benefits of it, just restriction, it depends on the context and it depends on what you're restricting yourself from, is never quite a good idea. And I've done it in a way of, from one day to the other. There was not any tapering off, there was just nothing else and whatnot. But I the reason for me to start it was trying to do something difficult once again. And I've actually really been happy. 3 weeks, this is more than I've ever had it in my whole entire life. Quite. And but this impaired neediness, this extreme willingness to do something with somebody, and really crushed my productivity, especially in the 3rd week now, and actually the last 2 days, quite. It really was pissing me off, and it really was giving me this feeling that it is not right for me to do in that way. So now I've been talking about the positive sides, the negative sides, those, kind of, what should I say, those things that are, more or less neutral, things that I have just noticed, period. Something that I noticed, by the way, right now, just because I'm feeling about it, is stress relief. I've had an eye twitching for the past, 3-4 days or something. And, might have definitely been due to not enough sleep and just being stressed and whatnot. That, just has been the case for me the past 3 days. But, after relapsing, it went away and I haven't felt it after this point. So the whole stress relieving thing is indeed the case for me. But I still also notice the whole clarity thing, and also the food thing. For me, at this point in time, I'm not that hungry, and it's also been easier for me now to stick to my fasting regimen. Quite. Anyway, so what is a good approach for me? And at my point of view, maybe it is also the same thing for you, I guess. I don't know. The whole porn thing, I would cut that out. I have seen some studies, many articles, and many people talking about the fact that it is no good. And for me, it also makes sense. I do not even have to think that much about it to make sense of that, and to notice and know that it is no good. And there is also no benefit in doing so. There's no fucking benefit in watching porn. Period. It is what it is. It is just the case. On the other hand, when it comes to NoFap per se, well, there are certain benefits, and, also health-wise with, cancers and all of that shit. I've did a bit of research today, and But also, of course, there are some downsides, as I said, by listing the negative points that I have noticed in this, rather short period of time compared to some other people, obviously, and of course. So what might be a good regimen? What might be a good approach to just, dealing with all of it? I guess keeping the amount relatively tiny. Also when it comes to, and this is something that I've noticed also back in the days where I've been in a relationship, that, it is heavily desensitizing one. If you're always fapping all the time, 7 times a day and stuff, then it is quite sensitizing up to the point where you meet your partner. At least this was the case for me. I have never had actually any issues with having an erection. Never ever. Quite. Of course, I've done it before, actually, most often just 1 week of NoFap, and on the weekends I knew that I'm gonna have intercourse. And first of all, I've noticed that I wasn't able nearly as long as before to last in bed. Period. It's just been like 10 seconds, just because I was so aroused, and also the arousement was way higher, and my aggressiveness and my pressure quite to just, you know, do it right now and whatnot, which is for me also a negative part, you know, which is also this neediness that I really dislike and I do not want to have. Maybe some people that did the whole thing for longer can say, okay, after, I don't know, 3 months, you're not gonna have it anymore, this neediness. But, well, actually this desire to meet people and to be in a relationship once again, which I haven't mentioned now or before, which has also been there and I've also noticed it. I think it is actually pretty good, and I think that it tells me or it gives me a sign that it is indeed a bit of rewiring and replenishing also capacities and hormones as well to some degree, I would say, and I would notice. In terms of working out, by the way, it's actually been quite the same. I didn't necessarily notice any heavy strength improvements, workout improvements. I've actually had some really shit workouts the past few days, maybe also due to just impaired sleep, whatnot, which, you know, by the way, could also have or impaired, I don't want to use this word again, but impairs the whole process of NoFap, you know, and in terms of the whole testosterone thing. Of course, there are some studies that, you know, show that after a week, it is just gonna go down and whatnot, but yeah. So a new regimen, as I said, I think it would just be good to keep it on the low end, not overdoing things, but keeping it to such a high degree that you're not gonna get the bad things. Maybe because of relapse you're gonna crash one day, but I certainly feel like that, you know, the next day it's just gonna be differently. You know, you're gonna have this better confidence, also mental clarity again and whatnot, but maybe also doing it week-wise. Potentially also to use the whole testosterone thing, you know, it is gonna decline anyways. So maybe you're gonna shoot your shots and then you're gonna just recycle the whole thing again. I don't know, it could work. But as I said, if it is just pissing you off to such a degree that you cannot concentrate anymore and do your daily stuff, you know, which often really was a reason to start it, you know, to just not be, distracted from your everyday work, which was not really the case for me. You know, I was not distracted. I wasn't thinking about fapping and pornography all the time, but for some people it was the case. And so for me, it kind of gave me a reason to say, like, okay, no, it just does not make any sense for me to do it longer than to such an extent, because I see the negatives. And you know, a balance of negatives and positives was for me like, well, if I cannot do my daily shit, then I'm actually gonna take this loss in mental clarity and maybe loss of this highly sexual need for just meeting people and whatnot. I'm gonna take it. I don't care. Also because I know that, you know, after a few days, this is just gonna come back to a good degree. But I'm gonna see, you know, gonna see how I'll do things from now on. But I would say NoFap in particular, as I said, I see the good things, but I also definitely see the drawbacks of it, even if the drawbacks are like, I don't know, I guess that if you know that you have the ability to shoot your shot, meaning you're having a girlfriend and I don't know, you know, maybe you see each other once a week or something, which, you know, was quite normal for me back in the days. I guess then it just really does make sense, quite, you know, because then this is for me kind of the healthiest, not the smartest. I really need to mention that the healthiest way for you to just, you know, then shoot your shot, you know, because of hormones and, you know, stuff like that. Even if it's just not going to be once or twice, maybe even 3 times, but still I think that, you know, just doing it with a partner is just always going to be the best option. At least for me. But by the way, seeing research and scientific suggestions, not necessarily evidences, because there wasn't too much of an evidence why we even do that, also has shown that other mammals are masturbating and whatnot, but I don't know. To kind of draw a conclusion here, a line of conclusion, mental clarity is a good point. I have seen it and I clearly see it right now. Maybe it's also the whole tiredness. Maybe it's just going to be completely different for me in the evening. Who knows? I have had impaired productivity as a bottom line, because, you know, afterwards now I was really able to get the things done that I needed to get done without having the feeling all the time of, okay, I need to meet people, I need to see people, I need to be in a relationship and whatnot, which is also a negative point. This complete boiling down to the sexual basis, you know, which might get you into a fucked up position, and maybe even a position of not actually getting there just because of this neediness, unless you're able to control it, which was not the case for me up to this point. So figure it out for yourself to just, you know, get all the benefits without necessarily having the drawbacks. As I said, cutting out pornography, which is scientifically proven to just not be good, and it also makes sense not to be good, unless, I guess, and this is just a thought, you are watching it with your partner. I guess this is something different. I assume. I guess. I would have to do a bit more research, but it would at least to some degree make sense for me in my position right now, at this point in time. The whole confidence thing, being a bit more powerful, feeling a bit more powerful, but I'm actually quite sure that this is gonna come back relatively fast. Maybe it's actually also gonna be 2 weeks, a 2-week interval, as I'm thinking about it right now. 2-week interval. Maybe it's just also gonna be like, okay, however you feel. The drawbacks, there are some drawbacks, but well, I don't know. I'm also thinking about, like, is this now gonna be impairing my ability to just, you know, get a partner, even, you know, which is kind of the same thing as, okay, having this over neediness, which is also not good, which could also lead to not having a partner, and now feeling like, okay, due to that, but this is, I mean, the whole confidence thing, me thinking, okay, you know, my confidence got down just because I'm fapping. Isn't this also like, you know, at this time a nocebo effect? Just making myself believe that it is due to that, just because I kind of have lowered my testosterone. That's actually, you know, let's perception of low testosterone leading to low testosterone. Because I could also actually see that just by me thinking about it, that I'm just gonna have it. Period. You know, just because I think, well, I probably have low testosterone, I probably have low drive, sexual drive, I probably have a low, I don't know, just desire to meet somebody, which is actually the case right now. I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck about that right now. I'd rather give a fuck about just getting the things done that I needed to get done for the day. Which is really interesting. This is more important for me right now. But, by the way, in terms of the whole relationship and neediness thing, I've also seen it in texting. Me really being, well, how should I say? Concentrated to a degree to, well, concentrated on one person in particular, texting and stuff and whatnot, but really then being concentrated on that person, really nearly, not obsessing, but being too concentrated for the period of time where I know this person of, or in which I know this person of, quite, which didn't make too much sense, just being too focused on that person, that thing and whatnot, and also feeling like, okay, maybe as well, like, okay, I just needed to get everything right and whatnot, and so on and so forth. So, on one hand, deep confidence in myself and my abilities and whatnot, which, as I said, might just be a nocebo, but who knows? Even if it is, why not then? But on the other hand, just having this utter focus and this maybe even obsession, as well as the increased neediness and extreme neediness, I don't know, like, in the end it somehow feels like still a net positive to me to some degree, but only due to my perception. But still, I actually wanted to look that up really quickly if I can find something, because I really do assume that that there is a potential of me just perceiving that I have low testosterone and this then leading to low testosterone, I guess, and also confidence, Of course, at this point in time, I do not just feel like that most powerful guy and whatnot, but I think that I could get myself into that state again. And now this is the question. Could I have this state of extreme powerfulness and this state of, okay, I have to meet somebody else, which, might surely be due to hormones, might surely be the case. And of course, controlling them by will could be the case. I don't know the data, I don't know the science behind it. Could be the case, but still, it's probably going to be a bit more difficult than just doing what leads to this change in hormones and doing what leads to this change in feelings. But my point is, could I just get all the goods and all the bads? By obviously, okay, if I'm doing NoFaps, I get both. So could I do something different to get both? Yet, I still think it's been a great experience, especially the whole dopamine thing. Clearly seeing that I'm seeking dopamine, that's been insane and really interesting. And also then just having another a set of tools. I do have another option to get myself in a certain state at will if I want to. I'm just it's just gonna take 3 weeks or something, or 2 weeks, which, on the other hand, maybe I could do it faster by meditating, by just thinking about that I can do so because I have experienced it. So anyway, I'm gonna update it, but I'm actually also gonna just really quickly see if I can find something. Association of low testosterone with changes in non-cardiovascular biomarkers in adult men. Well, this certainly is not what I've been searching for quite. But I don't know, like, for me, really now, the question is, can I get the powerfulness, the clarity, and the neediness without having to just have the negative sides? Very, very often this is just not going to be the case, because when you're having the good, you're also having the bad, period. But maybe, I'm going to be able to come up with something, see something, experience something, but now it is, at this point in time, it almost feels a bit concerning, this loss of interest in meeting somebody. Yet, on the other hand, I do like the productiveness and the willingness now to do all the things that I wanted to do, and also think about my health and my stress kind of a bit more, just feeling good, just feeling relaxed and calm, not that aggressive. Maybe this is also due to testosterone, even though the science says there was or should not have been such an increase in it. But I guess it was, maybe. I don't know. I actually should have done some blood testing. But at these points of time, since we are in lockdown, may have not been that easy. So actually, let's... How to gain extreme confidence. With this, confidence, I felt, especially yesterday, that I interacted with people in a way that I would not have done before. Meaning, I've said what I thought, I've just, did things in a way I wanted to do them, period. Didn't give a shit. And yeah, but still, this is kind of only based on confidence. Maybe also the whole meeting somebody is based on confidence. And it's just a mind game. So, yeah, could I just use my will as well to just, let's increase testosterone by diet, exercising? Yes. By will? Do you actually say it like that? I don't know. Here are 8 evidence-based ways to increase testosterone levels naturally. Eat protein, fat, and carbs. So just eat something, motherfucker, apparently. Natural ways to boost testosterone, blah, 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 blah. Well, I kind of guess you can do it by will. By thinking? I don't know, I'm by thinking will. Okay. Can I mentally boost my testosterone levels? The Man's Journal. If this is a highly useful, sorry by the way, site in terms of the information that I'm gonna get here, I don't really know, but I would certainly not necessarily think. Yes, this sounds ridiculous, but your testosterone responds to a lot of social and psychological forces, including amazingly psyching yourself up. Castor recommends positive self-talk to boost it in the near term. I want to be the best. Well, me not. Okay, that's it. That's actually quite not that much. Science Daily, I guess also a good site as far as I know. Some journals are really good, some are incredibly bad, but yeah, I know that you can't see it entirely, but I don't care at this point. Scientists found that this hormonal and psychological shift made men more inclined to approach new potential partners. A new study shows that when men only have to believe they have bested another man in competition to get raised testosterone levels and an inflated sense of their own value as a sexual prospect. The research team measured hormone levels as well as self-perceived attractiveness and confidence in approaching women. By the way, just because I think that I may be going through this in another episode, but I've seen also because I'm seeing that the Stream Endeavor episode is just, increasing in length from minute to minute, which just makes sense anyway. It's just getting pretty long now. What did I want to say? Because of this impaired productivity that I have seen and I have noticed, I felt less valuable on the market quite. Because for me, and this may be something good or something bad, I do value my productivity and my achievements and my output pretty high. Also pretty high in the sense of, okay, just being higher in ranks than somebody else. Just because, this is what I have achieved, that is what I have achieved, this is what I have done, and that is what I have done as well. And this just, makes me, it sounds so stupid, but in the end, just plainly saying it. This just makes me better than somebody else, somebody else that, might be having the same looks as I'm having, the same body as I'm having, but still this at most, willingness to achieve something, this willingness to work, this willingness to achieve, this willingness to work, this kind of makes me just feel better. I'm just searching for a word. Discipline, yeah. Just, also having discipline, which, kind of at first was one of the reasons why I started the whole NoFap thing. Because I felt like doing something hard for me, something that I wasn't able to do before, and I wasn't up to this point quite. So I could do it again, but as I said, I'm gonna search for a way in which I can get this confidence and this powerness and this willingness to meet and to mate without having to get the drawbacks and whatnot. So maybe, of course, it just might actually be different cycling, 2 weeks instead of 3 weeks, or up to this point where I just feel the negative it is of the whole practice, I'd assume. But yeah, with that being said, I really dearly hope that I've been able to share some things and talk about some things that were of value to you and your life, and maybe that I've even been able to motivate you to do something. But I'm going to see you the next time, so bye-bye.
So, I do want to recap things a little tiny bit, meaning kind of reverse certain things that I've said in the following video, I assume, or maybe I'm actually going to do it afterwards. I'm actually not quite sure how I'm going to do things. I guess it might be just afterwards or before, so I don't know. The thing is, to actually get my notes there, these are the original notes. Confidence, productivity, motivation, and also mental clarity. Kind of the main points for me to well say it's not been affecting me that much. It's been quite fine, but really big. But after me recording the video, and I actually did it really close to just getting into just my normal everyday business and stuff. Funny thing to say, but in terms of confidence, I have indeed seen a drop later on in the day, as was going out and seemingly caring too much about what other people thought about me. Some random guy that was just scrubbing off some ice off the car, and I thought, well, is he gonna just think about the way I walk or some shit? And I then thought, well, this is concerning. This is interesting. On the other hand, mental clarity. I did relapse, just, and I think that I've stated this in the video as well, because it was really pissing me off and bogging me that I was unable to work as well and as efficient as I wanted to, quite. But in the real end, I was not as productive as I thought I'm gonna be, and so I would argue that even just in this period of time where I basically thought that I am not that productive just because of thoughts and because of my neediness and stuff like that. No, I still was actually fairly productive. Actually, really productive compared to the time afterwards. Like, just been quite shit, to really be honest. And one of the biggest things was mental clarity. All of a sudden, which might also be biological, and I think that I've kind of hit on that a little tiny bit as well in the video. But I was quite tired, I was drained, I was just, not feeling really energetic, and, still quite motivated to do stuff, and actually felt more motivated to work. But I felt way less motivated to just, do something with somebody, social interactions in general, and doing anything actually but work. I don't know if this says something about my personality and what I do and stuff, but I really quickly wanted to talk about that and then kind of set things straight, but also kind of, or rather, just kind of documents this timeline. And at first I thought, well, it is quite fine, now I'm able to work, I actually feel also really motivated to work, which might actually be about dopamine. This is the exact same thing that I'm feeling as well when I'm working out, especially also caffeinated. When I'm working out caffeinated, the amount of work I potentially could do, at least in my mind, it is insane. And this might just be the exact same thing, but then the fact is, afterwards, I'm quite unable to do the work. Also, the confidence thing, at this point in time, I don't really know. I think that I'm trying to figure out some sort of a cycle that I could be doing, but a fact is, I do not want to have the negative side effects. I really don't want to have this shit. Because especially the mental clarity, this was bugging me and pissing me off. But also, the productivity thing, confidence, well, yeah. It was what it was. It still was concerning and interesting to see that this is the case, but this is a good point. One has to relapse, one has to experience those negative side effects, those negative things, to, well, basically know what the good parts are. It's always that balance. It is always this black and white or highlights and shadows. Without any highlights, you're not going to have any shadows. Without the valleys, you're not going to have the peaks of the mountain, and so on and so forth. I really quickly wanted to state that.